Court has made some very important observations on what, in common parlance and political dictionaries, is commonly being now used as bulldozer justice. Many have equated this to nothing short of kangaroo courts. Let's look at some of its observations orders in just last 1 month. Today, the court reiterated accusation, conviction is no ground for demolition. No different laws for different communities in that we are a secular country. While public safety, public interest is paramount, and that's why illegal religious structures in the middle of the roads need to go. The court has unequivocally said it will not protect encroachments across communities, but also specified in clear words the flip side, ordering for no glorification, grandstanding of bulldozer justice. This was also in the last hearing on 17th of September, categorically stating that even one instance of illegal demolition is anti-constitutional. Action against just one structure, leaving out other structures, are hugely problematic. And violations of municipal laws need to be proved before the demolitions. The court also went on to say it's not a pleasing sight to see women and children on the road. The Supreme Court, in fact, has gone a step ahead and said we will issue pan-India guidelines soon, and that notices must be sent through a registered post. Notices and orders for eviction, for demolition could and should be digitized. Notice can be uploaded on an online portal, and a window period after the demolition notice is issued is a must. 15-day time must for alternative arrangements. And remember, this is the context in which the Supreme Court said it's not a pleasing sight to see women and children on the road. The detailed guidelines, though, are awaited, and the court has said it would apply to all communities across India. But on 17th September, the court had put a stay on all forms of demolitions or bulldozer drives till 1st of October, that's today. But in the interim period of just about 15 days, there have been at least 2 such instances reported from the country. These are demolitions despite top court's stay. One, the Somnath demolitions in Gujarat that happened over the weekend. 9 religious structures were razed, including mosques and dargahs, and among the razed structures, to raise these structures, there were 36 bulldozers, 70 tractors that were deployed, 102 acres of government land was cleared, and over 1,000 police personnel were mobilized. The Waqf panel has filed a contempt plea in the Supreme Court, saying the demolition was done without any notice and in violation of the Supreme Court's order. In another case, there's a plea before the court that has sought for action against government officials in Assam, where 47 residents have petitioned top court, accusing the state of violating the court's stay orders. And they've claimed that the homes were demolished despite Supreme Court's order. The court, though, ordered for status quo. But what was such a big hurry even when there is a stay from the top court? And in these questions itself lie the complexity of politicking, to very loosely use this term, as brazen as it is in juxtaposition. In fact, let's look at some recent instances raising rights in the name of justice. Udaipur, Rajasthan, where the house of a teen who stabbed the classmate bulldozed. In fact, in this particular case, the family is a petitioner. They approached the Supreme Court saying that because this incident happened, the house was razed. In another case, earlier in June, Ratlam, Madhya Pradesh, where house of a labourer was demolished, the owner's son was arrested for allegedly slaughtering a cow. And in this particular case as well, the truth is that they have been the petitioners that reached out to the Supreme Court. And there are several such other cases as well. There's an ex-Congress leader, Shehzad Ali's bungalow that was razed over stone pelting in Akbarnagar, Uttar Pradesh. 1,800 illegal structures have been demolished in New Haryana. Bulldozer action after violent clashes in Ujjain, Madhya Pradesh. House of 3 boys who spat on a procession was demolished in Jahangirpuri, Delhi again. They also are party to the petitioners before the Supreme Court. Demolition following communal violence in capital. But how is this supposed to be looked at when it comes to the Indian Constitution? There have been several references to this in the court. But let's just look at what Article 21 states. There's protection of life and personal liberty that's ensured in the Indian Constitution under Article 21. Right to acquire, hold and dispose of property, safeguards against arbitrary deprivation of life. And then you have Article 19(1)(g), right to practice any profession, to carry out any occupation, trade or business, freedom to engage in preferred livelihoods. Of course, these come with their own reasonable restrictions. Let me open this up to our panelists at this point to try and understand how does one look at what's unfolded in the Supreme Court, not just today, but over the last few weeks, including what's unfolded in the country. Manish Barriar, a political analyst, joins us. Subhash Jha, who's an advocate. Yashovardhan Azad, who's a former special director for IB, and Tausif Ahmed Khan, who's a lawyer and political analyst. Very good evening. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. Mr. Subhash Jha, let me open this with you. You're an advocate. And what's unfolded in the Supreme Court has far-reaching bearings. How do you look at what's unfolded?
Look, we are living in a democratic country and we have got a democratic system. And I'm of the firm opinion that irrespective of which political party which is in power, this sort of bulldozer justice, what is popularly known as, and you have also quite often repeated the word bulldozer justice, cannot be countenanced in any democracy. In any democracy, we have got a rule of law. So unless and until, and the cardinal principle of criminal justice system is that unless and until an offense or a crime is proved against an accused, he is believed to be innocent. And so therefore, there is a presumption which the law creates in favor of an accused. So merely on the basis of an accusation, you eliminate a person, you encounter a person. Recently, what has happened in Maharashtra, in Badlapur, from a point blank range, a young boy was shot dead because in the name of encounter. So these encounters or bulldozer justice system, which is possibly prevalent in this country in the recent past, can certainly be not countenanced. And these are the incidents which are required to be deprecated by all and one. And this is irrespective of the politics. Let us not bring this politics into it. And I would refrain myself and request others also not to politicize this issue. This is absolutely legal issue, and let the Supreme Court address to it. And not that the Supreme Court is deciding this issue for the first time. So far as temple, mosque or churches on the roads, streets, corners, at all places, the Supreme Court long ago has passed judgments. Bombay High Court has passed similar judgments of the removal. Uttarakhand High Court has passed, Uttaranchal High Court has passed certain judgments on this very.
I think we have lost his frame. Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, All right, I think we lost you out in between, but let me also get in Mr. Yashovardhan Azad at this point. Sir, while we just heard Subhash Jha say that let's not politicize this issue, and this is not the first time that the Supreme Court is listening to this, making the observations that it has, let's also look at how this unfolds on the ground. And I listed out a series of incidents across the country where you have one particular incident that comes up where one person is accused or convicted in a particular case, and then you have suddenly an action being taken against this person. Now, you may say, and it's interesting because the government in the court has given an affidavit, and the response of the advocate for the government said that there are just about 2% cases that may be vindictive or that may be, against the law as such. 98% cases are not such as this. But how do you look at this, Yashovardhan, Mr. Yashovardhan? Because it's so complex. It's so hard because it's not just about religious structures, which is also important. It's also about houses. It's also about livelihoods. It's also about families.
See, as far as the question of bulldozer justice is concerned, Jhaji has said the right thing. I mean, there is no such thing which is called bulldozer justice. Using a bulldozer cannot be administrating justice. No two ways about it. The other thing, second thing which I want to point out is there is a difference between the judgment which Supreme Court gave on the cases where, on the basis of the crime committed by an accused, of course, which has not been decided as yet, the entire thing is raised. And there's a difference between the raising of the encroachments which have been around Somnath or anything. The high courts and the Supreme Courts have time and again said that religious structures cannot be, put in public places as a mark of encroachment. In fact, I am also of the firm belief that no religious structure of any religion should be at the middle of the roads, and this has been supported by the Supreme Court. Now, in that demolition, whether a bulldozer is used or missile is used, that's a different thing altogether. So let's keep that differently. Now, in the batch of cases which have been, in which the bulldozers have been used, now I cannot vouch for whether it's 2% or it's 98%. But even if in 1% it has been used on the basis of one person committing a crime, it's absolutely unfair because in a family there are 5 or 6 people, and why should they suffer for something which has not been even proved on the part of the accused? So yes, as far as the bulldozer approach is used selectively, that is absolutely wrong. As far as the encroachment removal is concerned, with due process, diligence, it's absolutely correct, whether it's religious structure or whether it's anything else.
No, you make a very important point, and the distinction is also important. But also, let me just ask you a question, since you spoke about this before I go to the other panelists. Mr. Azad, even if it is about encroachments, and even if it is about illegal structures, not necessarily homes, but illegal structures, including religious structures that have encroached upon, say, government land, public property, so on and so forth. The court today spoke about a very important aspect and about how there needs to be a window of period that's given, the notices are issued, even
100%.
while we make a distinction between these two cases.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I tell you from my experience, people have been given 1,000 times notices, and finally it goes to the court. Even court gives the time. Even then they are not removed. So these are those cases which I'm talking about. That it's not that in every case it's bulldozed like this. No government servant will even take the risk of doing it. It's impossible. In actual ground reality, what happens is encroachments are never removed voluntarily. It's always removed by this. And yes, of course, there should be a due process of law. Notices period should be given, 15 days. Absolutely, I totally agree with you on that point.
So, Mr. Tausif Ahmed, if I can get you in, You, of course, are a political analyst, but you're also a lawyer. I have to ask you, so what has changed? Has anything changed? Because we just had Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, who very categorically said that this is not how it functions on the ground. No government servant would be in a position or would want to take law into their hands in this case. And still you have petitions before the court saying we were not given notices, petitions before the court saying that these were punitive demolitions, petitions before the court saying that they were targeted. Now, of course, each case is different, merit is different, the truth may have different shades whatsoever, but nonetheless, how do you look at all of this?
You see, nothing has changed. Supreme Court passed an order imposing a total ban on the illegal demolitions, passed a direction that unless an order is obtained from the court, nowhere in the country can any authority take punitive measure and demolish any illegal demolition can be carried out. That was the clear direction of the court. But what happened? In that very court, the very same bench, the very same judges of the Supreme Court have to, defend the majesty of the court because some minister in the Uttar Pradesh is saying that the bulldozer action will go on in spite of the Supreme Court's direction. The Supreme Court had to defend and say that we cannot glorify bulldozer action. This is where we have been reduced to as a society. We saw what happened in Gujarat. No notices were served, no time was given, and the entire administration acted swiftly early in the morning, raised the entire complex, religious structure, dargah and Musafir Khana and everything is raised down. Those were 500 years old structure. When we are talking about encroachment, when we're talking about illegal structure, we talk about the encroachments on the footpath, encroachments on the road, and of course, illegal structure built against the municipal laws. But these are historic buildings, 500 years old. Clearly, this is a targeted action. Are we blind? Do we not understand that? Does the Supreme Court not understand the statement made by the Minister of Uttar Pradesh? What that minister meant and who the minister was trying to please and whether any vote bank politics was involved or not? Yes, absolutely Supreme Court knows this. And that is why Supreme Court has said that we are going to build guidelines which will be very clear enough, providing adequate protection and ensuring that there are two points to this. One, when there are accused, when anyone is made accused, he faces a punitive bulldozer action. And second, illegal demolition. What are these illegal demolition? Yeah, an allegation is made targeting a particular person, and the administration goes and raises the entire building without giving an opportunity of hearing, without serving a proper notice. These are all illegal demolition.
Okay, all right. Manish Baria, do you want to respond to this? But to what you just heard Tausif Ahmed Khan speak, I want to add to what he said. He of course, raised the issue of Somnath, saying that what happened there, look at they've also moved the court, saying that there was no notices that were served. That's one part of it, saying these structures are historic in nature. But also look at what the petitioner from Rajasthan, Udaipur, has told the court. What the petitioner from Ratlam in Madhya Pradesh has said the court. I mean, house of a teen who stabbed the classmate is suddenly bulldozed. What happened till now? Why wasn't it bulldozed earlier? Owner's son who was arrested for allegedly slaughtering a cow, house bulldozed. So, I mean, they are the ones who moved the court as well, apart from several others who also moved the court. Are we at such a complex junction in India where we can't separate justice, bulldozer justice, a perceived sense of justice, and what truly should be across communities? That you even require a court to intervene in this.
Good evening to you and all the viewers. One cannot justify these, and I think there is a unanimity, in the country and even amongst the political class as far as this bulldozer justice is concerned. And there's no denying that in few of the cases, uh, authorities have been overzealous, and they've taken actions which I would not really say it is in good spirit. But having said that, I would say that and I'm not obviously with a lot of humbleness. I would say that Supreme Court has also taken really 3 years to 2.5 years. These cases have been filed in 2022, and I would have expected, and it's my humble submission, I would have expected from Supreme Court that the first such cases came to the light in the country, and it came up quite few years back. It could have really taken suo motu notice, and could have really nipped the entire thing in its bud, because we understand that for sometimes the authorities also do it for their own personal glory and may not have a political component to it, and sometimes it may have a political ramification. There is no doubt. But then you were mentioning about 2% cases. So I went through that data, and I think the Solicitor General said that there were around 4.5 lakh cases, which he submitted was not too much. It's somewhere around 0.3% of the country, right? The cases. That way, I'm not trying to justify even one case, as I would agree with Mr. Yashovardhanji, that even one case is not fit to really have this kind of in any democratic country. But having said that, you should also look at, at the ground level, what is happening. It seems as if encroachment has become a birthright. And I'm very clear, I'm not talking about any community as such. It is spread across communities. But I think there is also a fact that if sometimes these kind of actions are taken against minority community, it gets highlighted a lot. And that also needs to be really called out for, right? It should not be such. There are cases where even the Hindus have been targeted. Let me be blunt on that. But it doesn't come in the media. It doesn't get highlighted. I think it's a larger menace which needs to be highlighted across communities. I would agree with the previous gentleman, Mr. Tawseef, what he said. But there have been temples that have been raised in Gujarat, other places also for building construction for other things, but it doesn't get really noticed in the media. So I would say that yes, across communities, these kind of things should come highlighted, and one cannot really justify such kind of bulldozer action at all.
Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, very quickly, if I can come to you as somebody who served with the IB, a top cop himself. One of the arguments that was before the court, and one of the lengths that the court did use, is about how members of a particular community cannot be targeted, whether it be minorities, and also the draft rules will be applicable across communities. Both of these are important, and I want both of you, Yashovardhan Azad as well as Subhash Jha, to weigh in. Mr. Yashovardhan Azad first. So the court brought in 2 points. The court on one hand said that while we will not allow encroachments, and that cannot be allowed, as you mentioned, the other side is you cannot have only one structure suddenly being targeted, and that's one question that everybody is asking. One incident comes to the fore. How come that one structure, everybody wakes up to raise that one particular structure? That structure would have been illegal for a very long time. I'm sure government has its records very clear. You could use the same bulldozer action to raise it before. But why, after a particular crime seems to come to light?
I think you've asked a lot
Does
of questions.
Does this need to be called out?
You see, let me say that any selective action is wrong. But as Mr. Manish rightly said, there are so many temples I'm aware of which have been destroyed. I mean, because there were encroachments. I have done it during my period as SP in Mandsaur. You know, these Hanuman, these red flags used to come, there's green flags coming on the other side. And we used to demolish 20 on the way because at night they would come up and the morning there'll be, again some problems. See, the ground realities are different. The most important thing, Koshy, is that you should have a fair and honest man as an SP, as a municipal commissioner, as the leader of any of these enforcement authorities. And I assure you, the action will be fair. As far as the religious structures are there, Even in Gujarat case, notices have been given. That is true. Now, it is a point of contention, and I agree it should be seen whether some structure was there for 500 years or 100 years. But I'm aware, if you see Agra, the entire thing is encroachment. Now, don't we want our beautiful Taj Mahal to be, separate and, to be free and absolute beautiful? It should look at in case of the thousands and thousands of encroachments which have come there. So what should we do about it? It's a problem. Now, Supreme Court, when it issues guidelines, what will the guidelines say? The guidelines will only say that due notice should be given. And I'm telling you, in many of the cases, notices are given, they are not complied with. Now, what we should focus on, and what we should actually look at, are those 2% cases where the illegal methodology is being used, that is using bulldozers when a crime has been committed. That is wrong. Because for one crime for which he has not been punished, there are 5 or 10 people in the family, they become homeless. So we should focus something for justice and not spread it over too many things so that, it gets a little garbled.
Subhash Jha, so if Mr. Yashovardhan Azad is saying that even if you have one honest officer who's heading the different wings that are involved in this particular case, whether it be the SP, whether it be the municipal body, whatsoever, is it all boiling down to that? Because you may have honest officials, and as he said, there may be a set of guidelines that the Supreme Court may eventually come out with, but at the end of the day, it is a political will that matters.
See, I would let me answer this way, that any illegal encroachment or illegal construction on any part encroaches on the fundamental rights of others. And that is what the Supreme Court said in G.N. Khajuria's case. And that was the only case where not only the Supreme Court said this, but the Supreme Court directed action to be taken against those who are involved, those officials who are involved in perpetrating the crime. See, no illegal construction of this magnitude comes overnight. It happens in active collusion and connivance of the corporation officials or Gram Panchayat or maybe a municipal council. So unless and until they collude and connive, and of course with the help of the police, unless and until we evolve a mechanism by which if any illegal construction comes up in A, B or C place, unless and until we make those officials responsible, let there be punitive action. There has to be two action, one on the administrative side and one on the criminal side. Because unless and until somebody indulges into massive corruption, this magnitude of illegal construction doesn't come up overnight. Now look at, I live in the city of Mumbai. You will find everywhere slums all around us. How these slums come up? They don't come up overnight. They come up in active collusion and connivance with the municipal corporation officials. And of course, the police, who in Maharashtra, we have MRTP Act.
Okay.
And which makes the office cognizable. So actions are not taken. So time has come where we make these people responsible and liable for their prosecution as well.
Okay, all right. I think we have a big breaking news coming in, but we may have to cut short this discussion. But Tausif Ahmed Khan, one last question to you. Do you see a new chapter in how the political dictionaries have been playing out with what the Supreme Court has said today? Do you see that unfold?
Well, I don't have high hopes because, as you have rightly pointed out, the political will is, greater than any guidelines or any direction passed by the Supreme Court in practical life. And we have seen that Supreme Court has refrained from passing a certain judgment because the executive has sent a report that it is an unexecutable order. just because there's an input, a report from the executive that if the court passes such an order, it cannot be executed. Court has refrained from passing such an order. I've seen that in real life. So similarly, whether I expect huge change, drastic change, no. But whatever little steps Supreme Court is taking, it is already late for the protection of the majesty of the court. The Supreme Court must have acted long ago. I say this with in a very humble way. But nevertheless, Supreme Court is now making a guideline which shall, at least for so many other officers who want to, deliver, who want to be honest and who want to be impartial, at least they will have a weapon on their hand in the name of the guidelines that the Supreme Court is making to deliver, justice, to be partial with the people, to do good to the society, and to uphold the rule of law.
Right.
And not to be a stooge of any politician or not to succumb to the pressure of any local gundas.
Now, important points being made, and definitely in today's India, we all as citizens and lawmakers, law enforcers have one huge responsibility, and to ensure that the sense of justice, the way it's perceived, the way it's delivered, is not bulldozed. Manish Bariyar, Subhash Jha, Yashovardhan Azad and Tauseef Ahmed